Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us again tonight for the June Integration Down Under meeting. I've just got a couple of slides I'm going to go through quickly, and then I'll turn it over Sergio for the topic tonight. So basically, just go again through the organizers. We have Martin, Dan, Renee, Wagner, and myself. And if you need to reach out to any of these guys, you can do it through the Integration Down Under Twitter handle. We're all onto that. So tonight's topic is the unleashing the power of the Azure Data Factory from Sergio. He's from Satalyst in Perth, works with Martin. And so I'm going to go ahead and hand over to Sergio. Let me just give him presenter. And
cool,
yes,
that's great.
See your screen.
That sounds good. Thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
And thanks Integration Down Under as well for this opportunity to be here talking today about Azure Data Factory. I'm Sergio. I have been working with data for the last 16 years. I'm originally from Brazil, a soccer country, and the World Cup starts today as well, tonight here in Perth. And I'm looking forward for the World Cup. I also lived in New Zealand for a couple of years, and I'm here in Australia for the last almost 6 years now, also work with data and analytics. I have been working with different customers from different sectors, such as mining, as usual here in Western Australia, government, healthcare, financials, and then many others. As I said, I also lived in New Zealand. I worked in Auckland and Hamilton, and also did some work for Fonterra in New Zealand. And I also run the SQL user group here in Perth. Every month we have a meetups here to talk about data. And that's what I really enjoy to do, basically helping customers to migrate their solution to Azure, talk about solutions, solving customers' problems as well, and helping as well the community to someone to become a speaker, to help them on this adventure as well, the new technology. Okay, the topic today is Azure Data Factory. I'm going to start giving an overview on Data Factory and also talking about version 1, version 2, and the new features available in version 2. Version 1 today, I'm not going to go very deep because it's quite old now, and this session is going to be more on version 2. I'll be talking about the ADF components, how ADF works, and I have a few demos to show. I'm going to move in data from a blob storage to Azure SQL database, and also I will show how to integrate Logic App in the same pipeline as well. And at the end, I will show a few real-life scenarios that I worked in the last few months with a mining customer here in Australia. I'll be moving from the slides to the browser to show, because I think it makes sense when I talk about a topic or something on ADF, I go to ADF and show where is it and how it works. It's easier for everyone to understand. And okay, Azure Data Factory is a cloud-based data integration service basically used to automate data movement and transform data. When I say transform data, Data Factory does not transform data on its own. It's leveraged different technologies such as HDInsight, also Azure Data Lake, now Azure Databricks as well, Azure Batch. Those services will transform data. And then in this scenario, you can talk about Data Factory as more as an orchestration engine, that you copy data, you move data from a source to a destination, and then you transform that data in another solution using HDInsight. As I said, there are different solutions there. You can see in this picture here, you have data source. Your data source can be on premises or cloud data source, structured data, unstructured data as well, or semi-structured data, where you can ingest using ADF. You can prepare, transform that data, and publish to a Cosmos DB, to Azure SQL database, or Azure SQL Data Warehouse, or even a blob storage, make that data available for consumption. That's a very, very high level. What is Data Factory? Sometimes I get questions as well. Look, Sergio, but what is the difference between Data Factory and Logic App? When I should be using Logic App for my data, and when I should be using Data Factory? I always put a line in the sand there. Data Factory is for data movements, for data integration. It's for you to transform your big data, to ingest data from different sources, and bring that data together for analytics. And your Logic App is more for applications integration. That's how I separate here. But I always use Data Factories and Logic App together. I think it's a tool that you need to work together, where you can leverage things, for example, from Logic Apps to send message. If my Data Factory fails, or I need to send an alert, I can use Logic App to do that. Also, Data Factory is global deployed data movement as a service, using integration runtime. I will touch on this point in a few slides later on to give a detail what is this, what I mean about this global deployed data movement as a service. ADF version 1 is generally available for the last few years. It was designed for batch data processing of time series data. One of the examples here is sensor data, telemetry data. It wasn't very flexible to work for the normal analytics or ETL or ELT process, and had a lot of limitations there. We had like so many limitations there that we couldn't use for a lot of things. And then ADF version 2 was released, I believe, in July last year. It's almost a year, June or July last year, and it's still in preview, but it's another word. It's a much better solution, very, very flexible to create your pipelines, to execute it, to create your hybrid data integrations. And when I say a lot better, I can give some examples here of the new features. Over here, I have one activity called copy. Copy activities is used to copy data from a blob storage from a source to a destination. Can be a database to a database, or on-premise data source or cloud data source to another data source, basically. And then you can also using the branching for the activity. What I mean about branching, let's say this copy here was copying data from a blob storage to a SQL database. After it's completed, we can say when it's completed successfully, run another activity. If it's failed, call a Logic App and send an email, an alert. And then you have this branching there. You can say, look, if it's completed successfully or failed, run this activity. Or if this activity was skipped, I want to run this other activity. There's like a lot of flexibility here as well. And you can also use some of these conditions here. You can use the for each, if condition, until, and wait. And not sure if you have used SSIS or some of the integration tools for data and analytics as well. You had a lot of these there. One of the examples here, I was working with a customer a few weeks ago where we have to process almost 1,000 tables from his database and bring that to another database for their analytics solution. We didn't create 1,000 copy activities for each table. What we did, we used the for each, and then we have a metadata table there with almost 1,000 tables there, and then we use the for each to loop through all tables and copy the data table by table. That helps, that speed a lot the development. And there's a if condition, until, and wait. They're available as well today. Also, one of the new features there is the expressions and functions and system variables. We had some of these in the version 1, but it was very limited. Now it's a lot flexible and very easy to use as well. And one of the biggest changes there that I really enjoy is the web designer, which was released in December last year, around December last year. And it is very easy to build your pipeline, to test it, and also to deploy, basically, and very user-friendly. On Data Factory V2, Microsoft also released a lift and shift of SSIS package to run in ADF version 2. If you don't know what is SSIS, is a SQL Server Integration Service, and that's you can run to copy data from database and do DBA tasks as well. Now you can lift and shift and run on ADF version 2. I'll not be talking about this in very deep today, but there are a lot of documents online that you can have a look. And another new feature there that I'd like to say that's not showing here is parameters. Your pipeline in Data Factory version 2, you can add parameters, which make it easier for you to test with different environments, to change parameter when you are running on your dev. It's a lot easier. I'll be covering that today, showing the parameters, how it works as well in the demo. About the questions, I'm gonna try to leave that to the end, just because I believe this presentation is gonna take about 40 to 50 minutes. And then we have a question slide that I can answer questions there. Components.
So yeah. Sergio, we do have a question that they can type in, and I'm monitoring those now. And cool. Basically, we can hold those to the end without a problem.
Perfect. Yeah, because sometimes I may answer that questions on the next slides. Yep. That's why I'd like to leave to the end, and then I can answer all questions there. Thanks, Bill. Okay, Data Factory's breakdown, like if you think about Data Factory, is about 4 components. You have your pipeline, where your pipeline you can schedule to run every 5 minutes or every hour or daily or weekly. You can monitor your pipeline to see if it's completed or not, and then you can manage that pipeline. In a pipeline, you need to have 1 or more activities. And then activity could be a copy activity, where you can copy data from, as I said earlier on, from a blob storage to a SQL database. You can have an activity to run a store procedure. And that's the type of activity we're gonna cover the next slide as well. And an activity needs a data set. A data set is your table structure, your file structure, basically. If you think about a table which has 5 fields, in this data set, you're gonna have 5 fields there and a data type for those. And you also need a linked service. Linked service, the easiest way to understand is a connection string to your data source. And then if I have a table here with 5 columns, that table needs to be in a database. And then that database connection will be here, the linked service. Okay, this is sometimes not very easy to understand. I'll be moving from this slide to show what that means. Let me just go here and explain my demo. I have a storage account where is my source. Over here, over this storage account, I have a CSV file with ICT jobs in Australia from seek.com, around 11,000 records. Let me just change my screen here. I want to show what I mean about that one. Is this CSV here, if you can see there, where I have the job ID number, the URL, the date that I extract this data. And then if we move to the right here, I also have the position, the city, where it's from, the salary, everything from that was available on seek.com on the 31st of January. That's what I'm going to load there. And very interesting data as well, but I'm not going to show the data today. It's going to be only loading. And then I'm going to load my sink, and my destination is going to be a table, a position table in Azure SQL database. Okay, I'm going to move now to my browser here. I have this resource group where I have my Data Factory version 2 here. I'm going to open that. You can see here, you can monitor your pipeline and see how many runs you had. And also if there's any failed, it's still loading here. But in the meantime, I'm gonna open this one and leave that opening. Yeah, it's quite slow here. Okay. Yep, I did some tests last night. I was checking if it's all working fine before I do this demo today. And yeah, I had 2 runs and it was completely successfully here. Actually, 1 failed here because I'm gonna do 1 failed to send a message, and 2 completed and 1 failed. If we go here now to the Data Factory Web Designer. Let me just talk about this interface very quickly. When you open this designer, you can click over here to create a pipeline. Remember, the pipeline is the first. If you go back here, is this first one here. That's the one that you're going to schedule and monitor. If you click over here, it's going to create a pipeline number 1 here. You can see it's over here. For us to go back there, click over here, discard this. You can also copy the data. This will take you through a wizard. I'm not going to be using this today because this is very easy to follow, and I will be doing all of this manually. But basically, this you can go next, and select your source, your connection, your data set, destination, and then it's very intuitive, very easy to do. I'm going to close this. You can also set up integration runtime for SSIS to deploy your SSIS package and run in the cloud. Just for this one here, I got questions as well on this. You will need to have Azure SQL Database instance or the managed instance to set up your SSIS database there. And you can connect to a Git repository as well to save your code, your ADF code. Okay, and there's some documentations here you can have a look how to do, and so this is always getting bigger. Okay, I'm going to go back here to the author, and the first thing I want to show, I'm going to go back to my slides just for you to follow what I'm doing. I'm going to create my connection string to a storage account and to an Azure SQL database. Okay, that's the linked service. I'm going to go to connections here on the left, and I have linked service, create new. And then my first one is Azure Blob Storage. You can see here there are a lot of options here for data source, cloud-based, on-premise based, all different type of data source you can select. In this demo, I'm going to show Azure Blob Storage. Continue. I'm going to leave this name here. I'm going to leave as this default. I'm going to select from my Azure subscription. You can come here and enter manually all the storage account and the storage key, but I'm going to get from my Azure subscription. I have 2, and my storage for this is this one here. In this step, I'm create a connection string to my storage account. That's it, and finish. And then for this one here, I'm creating through the connections and new. There's another way you can do that as well. I'm going to use the other way to do for the Azure SQL database. It's taking a couple of seconds here. Okay, that's good. It's created. And now I'm going to create a data set. If you go back here, I created this linked service for the blob storage. I'm going to create now a data set for my CSV file, for my source. What I have to do, if you come over here and you click over here, no, that's not correct. You have to click in the plus in the top, data set. And then where's my data set? It's in Azure Blob Storage. Finish. Here we go. Created this new tab over here called Azure Blob. I'm going to remove this number 1. I go to connections. And over here, I can click over here and select the Azure storage. And then I can browse the file. I'm going to double click here. That should be here. Yeah, it is. My CSV file is here. Finish. And I can use this detect format to check the formats that I have in this file. If you look here, this option here is saying my file has a column name is in the first row, is not selected. But when I select here, yeah, it's looking to the file and put the formats here. And if I go back here now, preview data, that's my data here. That's my preview here, where you can see like the salary, the classification, and everything. And another step, I'm going to go to the schema over here. When I say import schema, that was what I was talking about. You import the column name and the data type. That was I was mentioned here. The data set, we have the column name and the data type and the connection to the linked service, the link to the linked service over here. Okay, I'm gonna change the data type for a few of these. Oops, this one here, date, time, date, time. This should be int. Int. I think there is one more, this one. That should be all. Okay, another change that Microsoft implemented in the last, I would say 2 to 3 months, was this number here. You can see there's a number 1. That means the number of changes or the number of items that I need to save. The change that I have done here is not saved. You can see a star here. If I close the browser, I'm gonna lose everything I have done for this data set. I have to come over here and publish to save it. And I had the problem with the customers in the past building some of this pipeline and not saving and losing it in the past. Okay, now it's saved. What I'm gonna do now is create a data set for my database, for my table. I'm gonna select here SQL, Azure SQL Database. But remember, I didn't create the linked service for this. I'm gonna leave as SQL database. In the connection, if I click over here, it's empty. I don't have any linked service that's for Azure SQL database. This is the other way to do. I can come here and create from here. And then I'll put a new linked service. I'll select my subscription here. Server name is this one, database name is job. Username and password, test connection, cool, that's done, finish, no. And this should create and auto-populate the linked server over here. And only taking a couple of seconds, yeah, it's done. And then over here, I can see I have only one table in this database on my table over here. And the same thing, I can preview data, should be empty. I cleaned this table before we started. And if I go to schema, I can import as well. The same way I'll have here the column name and the type as well. That's done. What we just did over here, what I just showed you, we create 2 linked serves, 2 data sets. And now I'm going to show a pipeline and activity as well. If we go back here, pipeline, because a pipeline, an activity needs to be in a pipeline, I have to go over the top, pipeline, and this is a new pipeline that pipeline number 1. I'm going to rename this to job. Oh yeah, job, that's fine. And then over here, I'm going to cover my next slides about activities, but you can see here all the activities. And as I said there, you need to have in a pipeline at least 1 activity. If I try to validate what I have done here, it's saying pipeline job should have at least 1 activity. I can't even save this. I think this will give me an error message. Yeah, it's failed to save because it's missing here. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use a copy activity to copy data from the blob to the SQL database. Okay, I'm gonna stop here now and go back to the presentation, then we finish this in the next slides. Okay, if we go here, hope you understand here what is a data set, linked service, activity, and pipeline. And then I will show how to schedule and how to monitor as well later on. ADF Activities Options. There are 3 activity options. The first one is a data movement. And there is only 1 activity for data movement, which is the copy, where you can copy data from a source to a destination. And the second one there is a data transformation. That's what I was talking in the beginning of this presentation today, that the transformation are done basically in different tools. And one of those are Azure Batch. You can use Azure Batch to transform your data. You can use Databricks, where you can use a Spark notebook to transform your data as well, or you can use SQL in the data lake analytics. And you can also use machine learning, which is available now in the last few weeks. Microsoft made this available. And also HT Insight using Hive, Big, Spark to process big data as well. And this was released like a month ago or just over a month. You can also, inside of ADF, run an SSIS package. This is different to what I was talking about the SSIS package early on. And what I mean that in the early one, you can deploy your SSIS package to run in ADF, okay, to run in the ADF. Before ADF version 2, the only option to run SSIS package in Azure was to set up a VM, and then in this VM, you have to set up SQL, where you can manage your own instance, your own virtual machine, and run your SSIS packages from there. This one here, it's calling an SSIS package to run, okay? And you can also transform data using store procedure. You land your data to a stage environment on your database, and then you can run a store procedure to transform that data. And then the last activity option is control. That's you control your pipeline. In the control, you can execute from one pipeline, execute another pipeline. I have been using this in a lot of pipelines. I will talk this later on the real life scenarios that I've been working on. And you can also get metadata, lookup, web. Web is really important. I have been using this as well to call Azure function or logic app. Wait, and then also the filter for each if condition and until. I have done this presentation back this year, I think it was April this year, on the Azure Integration Bootcamp here in Perth, and also present a month and a half ago to the SQL user group. And since like end of April, Microsoft released this activity here, execute SSIS package, this filter, and machine learning. You can see in the last month and a half, 2 months, a lot of new activities made available in ADF. Those are the activities you can use there. I will show, this is basically over here. Let me just show in this panel here. That's all the activities that I showed you today. When I was presenting this back in the Integration Bootcamp, this one here wasn't available. And then when I was presenting, I'm like, whoa, there's a new Databricks now is available here. That you can see Microsoft's all releasing change and updating Data Factory. Let's go back here. Okay, how Data Factory works. This is very important to understand as well. Remember in my first slide, I was talking that Data Factory has a data movement available in almost all Azure data centers. That's integration runtime. And one of the big confusions there that I always like to talk about is Data Factory is only available in a few data centers. If we go here, I'm going to show this quickly and try to set up a new Data Factory. Data Factory over here. Data Factory, create. It's very straightforward here. You give a name, the global unique name, select a subscription, a resource group, and the version 1, version 2, and the location. That's where some customers or people come and say, look, but it's not available in Australia yet. I cannot use this Data Factory. Okay, which is not a valid point, but that makes sense if you don't know how Data Factory works. That's why I would like to show this picture over here. When you set up Data Factory in this example in East US, that doesn't mean your data is gonna move to East US to be processed. In this scenario here, it's saying, look, in UK South, I have a source that can be my blob storage to Azure SQL database as a destination. That doesn't mean your Data Factory that was set up in East US, your data is going to travel all the way there and to go to the destination. No, Microsoft used the integration runtime, and to process the data movement where your data is, basically. In this case, the data is in UK South. The data movement is going to happen over there. The only thing that's going to be stored in East US is the metadata for your pipeline. You may ask, okay, but what do you mean about that? I would like to show here as well. If we go back to Data Factory, let me just close this. If you click here on the top right here, code, this is the metadata for your pipeline, for my pipeline here. I have only one copy activity, and that's my metadata for this. This data here is going to be stored in East US. And then if I go to a data set as well, the same. This configuration here is going to be stored in East US, but your data is never going to go there, which is good to understand that as well. I'm going to save this and leave saving. And in this scenario here, yeah, the data is in UK South. That's where the data movement is going to happen. And when is a transformation? Microsoft, and they have like an activity dispatch where this activity dispatch is going to call a HDInsight, Hive code, or a Spark to process that data, to transform that data, and wait until finished, basically. Your transformation happens where you set up your HDInsight, basically. If you set up in UK South, that's good. One thing that's very important to understand here, the integration runtime is available in almost all Azure data centers, not in all. And I'll give an example. In Japan, it's not available in the West data center. It's available in the East data center. But the good news for us here in Australia, it's available in all data centers. Integration runtime, if you have your data stored in the Southeast, in Melbourne, or in Sydney, the integration runtime is available there. The only exception there is a special integration runtime to run your SSIS package that's only available in Australian East data center. Okay, data integration, there are three types I would call. Data movement, the one that would do your data movement, is available in all Australian data centers. Activity dispatch, also available in all Australian data center. And there's a special integration runtime for SSIS, only available in Australian East data center. Okay, hope you understand that. If it's not, just type a question there. I will answer the question later on. Okay, let's finish our demo. If we go back to the browser, oops, something's failed, which makes sense, which is good. What's telling me here? I have a copy activity. I try to save it, but it's missing the source data set, my destination, my sync data set, and the source type. Okay, let's now finish that. It's over here. If you click over here, you can see there's one here because I'm missing those here, the configuration for those two. But before we move there, I can give a name to my copy activity, copy job. I can give a description. I can set a timeout for the activity and say if this activity takes longer than 5 minutes, timeout, and retry twice. And the retry interval here is 30 seconds. Wait 30 seconds and try again, basically. I'm gonna leave as default. Let's go to the source. In the source, I'm gonna select what I have here, then my Azure blob. And I can also preview data here as well. It's gonna go back there and check. Sync, I'm gonna select where the data is gonna go to Azure SQL database. I can type here a pre-copy script. Let's say I wanna truncate the table before I load. You can do here. I can call a start procedure as well, but in this case, I'll leave blank for now. In the mapping, I'm gonna import schema. It's gonna map the schema from my source to the schema to the field from my sync, my destination. And then you can see it's all mapped. I'm gonna check the data type if I didn't miss any. The data type here, this is good. Cool, it's all fine. Okay, we are done here. There's some further settings here. You can change the data movement unit to process quicker, or you can change this, but leave that one as default for now. You can type some JSON here for advanced settings as well. I will leave as the same. And let me just save this before I run. And now it's saving. You can debug. You can click over here and debug. What's going to do is going to process. It's going to run this pipeline in this screen, and then we'll be able to see in the output here what time started. And I'm going to debug now, and it's going to show here below that is processing. Yeah, what time started, how long it's taking, and it should refresh every 5 seconds. And then if you click in this watch here in this glass, you can see it's copying from here to this database. It's in progress. And then if I click over here again, it's still copying. Usually take about 30 to 40 seconds to complete, and should show some data here moving, but it's not showing. And then, or if you don't have debug like this is usually used to test. You can test, okay, I'm developing this, I'm testing, that's the best way. Or you can trigger. Trigger now is going to run this pipeline in the back, so you can monitor here and this monitor here. That's what I'm going to do next as well to show. Let's see if this is finished. Yeah, it's completed. Took 49 seconds. If you click over here, it's copied about almost 11,000 records. The throughput here, just remind, I'm using a S0 Azure SQL database. That's the lowest one on the standard. And if you look here, this is a database. And then if I look at the table now and run this, I think this database, you only pay like $25 a month. It's a very low DTU. Should be not this is low, but let's go here. Yes, see here, price tier S0. I'm gonna go here, top 1,000, and should show the top 1,000 records there, and should be very quickly. Yeah, here we go. That's the data, all the information from the CSV here now. If we go back here, let me close. Let me just run this as a trigger. This will process my pipeline in the back. So for you to see that now, you can come here to the monitor, where you can monitor your pipeline execution. I was testing yesterday some pipeline last night. Now this, I just started this one here, it's in progress. And then I can click over here, this one here to stop, to cancel, and over here to see the activity. It's only one, but if you have many, it's gonna show all of them here, which one is waiting, which one is completed. And then you can also look here, yeah, it's finished, and only took 21 seconds now to copy 11,000 records. And then if we go back here, yeah, succeeded, that's good. Now I'm gonna show you how you can bring here a logic app to send a message. If it's failed, to get an email. I'm gonna go to the logic app here now. That is, I haven't set up this, I'm gonna do now. A notification, logic app. Yeah, here we go. It's loading the connection. Okay, I'm gonna say when a HTTP request is received, to send an email. And then in this HTTP request, I'm gonna add a JSON body here. I have done this one here to save us time. This is my JSON body. Paste over here. And then the next step, and the condition is gonna be Office 365 Outlook, send an email. Oh, that's good, I have to sign in. I'm gonna sign in to show me the options there. Okay. And here we go. I'm going to add a recipient to true. Subject is going to be, as I'm going to be using this to send if it's completed successfully or if it's failed, I'm going to have a type. My type here, it's saying, yeah, it's failed. And I mean, also I have over here now, oops, sorry. I have over here the subject, how it should looks like. You can custom this, and this is very simple what I'm doing here, but you can do a lot more. Data factory name, pipeline name, in the message. Message is this one here. Pipeline, I'm gonna add the pipeline name over here. That's done. Very simple logic app to receive HTTP requests and then send an email. Save. And here we go. I'm gonna open this now, copy this URL. And remember when I was saying earlier today as well in this session, you can add parameters. That's the beauty here now. You can add parameters, that's name, type, and the value. My value here is gonna be my URL. I'm gonna go back over here, parameters. This is my parameter name, new, and then I'm gonna have this recipient. I'm gonna send an email to my account.com.au. Yep, that's good. Okay, that's my parameter. And I'm gonna go to the activities. Select a web, put it over here and say this is my notification. I'm gonna link. Remember the branch I was saying, that's you can do different branches here if it's failed. What I want to quick show you here. Let's say if it succeeded, I'm going to delete this. I want to run a Spark notebook to process my data. But if it's failed, you have to click over your activity, click over here, fail, and then you can link here. And then you can organize here as well. That's it. You have this to run Databricks notebook, or if it's failed, send a notification. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to leave only this one. Click over here. The same. You're going to have a timeout, retry, all of this that we covered later on, early on, sorry. Settings, URL. Okay, I'm going to start adding all the expressions here, the parameters. This is my parameter. You can see here, I can get a pipeline name, a run ID, and some of the functions here as well that you can use. And then if you look this, some of this looks like logic app as well, some of these parameters here. I'm going to use that one, and the URL, select post, and over here you have get, post, put, delete. In this case, I'm going to use post. In the body, I already have this on here to make it easier. I'll show you this as well. Let's make this bigger, which is good. Okay, that's what I'm going to send in the body, a message. And then if this fail, activity, here should be the activity name. I'm going to put here copy job, get an error message from this activity. If it's failed at one, get the error message and send as message. Data factory name, I'm going to internal function there to get the data factory name, because in the same Azure subscription, in this case, this is my data factory name, demo ADF presentation. You could have your dev, test, and different data factories there. That's why it's important to have data factory name. Pipeline, that's the pipeline name here, pipeline job. You can have hundreds pipeline here as well. Who I'm gonna send this is my parameter, and the type will be failed. Okay, and that's it, but we need to make these to fail. What I'm gonna do here to be easier, I'm gonna truncate table dbo.position. If you remember, I'm gonna go back here. The table name is positions. Okay, I'm missing the S here. That's why it's gonna fail. And what I'm gonna do, I can just debug. When I debug, I can change over here. Okay, I want to use this order logic app notification, or send an email only to my personal account, to a user group. If you have more than, well, you can change those parameters basically. I'm going to say I'm happy with that. Finish. And then it's going to run. It's going to take about 30 to 40 seconds as well. In the meantime, let me just show you another thing over here. If you go to the view code now, you can see here you have all the code that we are using there, even the parameters that we're using. It's all there in the code. You can use this as well to copy and paste and save as a JSON and deploy to another instance manually if you want to do that. Or you can make ARM template on what I have done here, and then it'll be easier to deploy to another environment as well. Yeah, okay. It's this job here failed. This is the error message we got here. Cannot find object position. That's the error message. And it called my logic app here. I should see an email here. Yes, here we go. That's very quick. I got an email here saying it's failed. And this is the message type here. It's saying cannot find object position. And that's how you can use ADF with logic app. Another thing I want to show you here as well is you can actually debug. That was added as well a few months ago. Let's just make this a little bit more complex just to show you what I mean. Let's say I have this, and after process that, I run another pipeline. Okay, that's mine. Let's say you had some issues over here, like we are getting some issues. What I can do, I can click over here and say run until here. That's going to disable all the next steps and run up to here. Let's say I'm testing this one here. Cool, run up to here. Okay, that's what you can do as well there for your ADF pipeline to test it. I'm gonna delete this, delete, and publish. I have to fix it. I'll leave as it is for now. Another thing Microsoft added as well, like a month or 2 months ago, in the pipeline, you can add folder. So you can organize your pipelines and have like, this is my HR folder. My pipeline from the HR will go inside. And also, if we click over data sets, here could be, if we're doing a big project, you can have hundreds here, a lot of different data sets and for different projects. What you could do as well, create folder, HR, this relates to HR, move over here. Just keep in mind, you have to publish and save it because you move that across there and then you have to publish again to save. Well, my time is almost 10 to 6 here. I'm almost done. Just the last one here in the demo. And also what's very useful, which Microsoft added, you can clone. You can click over, oops, it was saving. You can click over a pipeline and clone it, make a copy. So if you want to do some testing and change, that's the easiest way as well without changing your main pipeline. Or if you want to do something similar, and you can do that one as well here. I'm going to delete. And that's a very quick overview here, what's available, how you can use, and hope you understood. Let's go back to the presentation over here. Okay, real life scenarios. I went to a customer back in January, March this year, and they had like 15,000 XML files to be processed a day with a total size of 6 to 7 giga per day to be processed. And one of the requirements was they said to me, look, Sergio, we can't spend more than $5,000 a month. And because I have done something similar for another mining customer using HTInsight, and then HTInsight is really, really expensive to run. And that customer was a different requirements as well. They were looking to have like a near real-time data processed, XML data processed. And then in this case here, I say, look, it max $5,000 a month for us to spend on Azure. And then we have to process those XML files once every hour. And what I did is I used ADF, Logic Apps, Azure Data Lake, Azure SQL Data Warehouse, and Azure Analysis Service. The business scenario for this was to make the data available for reporting to start with, for the operational reporting, and now they are implementing more machine learning to predict when for predictive maintenance, basically. And then this is the pipeline that I built over there. I removed the notification. This is a very clean pipeline, make it easier to understand. This first one here was a logic app that I used to move the XML files from a source folder to an archive folder where I archive the data by year, month, and day, and then also to move to a pre-processed folder. And then in the pre-processed folder, I use this useSQL to read the XML files from the pre-processed folder, convert the XML to CSV, and then where we can load that to Azure SQL Data Warehouse using a technology called Polybase. And then you can see here, in the same time I was processing the XML files, I was resuming my Azure SQL Data Warehouse. Azure SQL Data Warehouse is an MPP platform database for massive parallel processing database, and it's very expensive to run as well. And then in this use case over here, for this customer, he was looking to process the data every hour. And doesn't make sense to leave Azure SQL Data Warehouse running for the other 40 minutes or 50 minutes that's not processing any data. And then what I have done here, I create a pipeline to pause the database so they stop paying it. And then also another one that's resume. This one here is to resume the database. The pause one is in the end here, after I refresh my Azure Analysis Service, my cube. Okay, and then this process over here, the start procedure, was loading the data using Polybase. And then I have another logic app over here to clean up my pre-processed folder. And then another pipeline here to process my cube. You can see in Azure Data Factory, you can start creating, I would say, components that you can reuse that using parameters in different projects. You can reuse that in different customers as well, and it'll be easier for you to go to another customer and deliver another solution to pause Azure SQL Data Warehouse or to process your Azure Analysis Service. Okay, I'm going to touch now, explain a little bit more about this component here, what is inside of these components. And that's the next one here. Azure SQL Data Warehouse is very expensive. Okay, we create a pipeline which has the first activity here was to pause, was calling this pause web API to pause the database. And I have this until to check if the database has been paused. Inside of this activity until, I have these two activities. One is to check if the database has been paused using this get here, this another web API. And then if it's not, I was waiting for 20 seconds and then check again until it's paused. The same way I have done this to pause, I did to resume. I have here resume, run this post, and then until SQL is resumed, have here to check it has been resumed or not, and wait 20 seconds. And then this now become a component that we use not on the pipeline that I showed you here, but we're using in many pipelines for this customer. And then we pass the parameters such as the subscription, the Azure SQL database, the server, so you can make that one as a component. In the same way, if you have worked with cubes, we did something similar as well. We create a component to, the first one here was to process your Azure Analysis Service cube. And then sometimes the cube, if it's a big cube, it takes a couple of minutes or maybe a little bit more. And then we have this until. Inside of this, we have, okay, check the state, okay, using the get over here to check if it has been completed. If it's not, wait 10 seconds and check again. And then as soon as it's finished, we can pause the database after that because the cube is refreshed now. And if you'd like to learn more about Data Factory, I really recommend you to start from version 2. And there are a couple of links there you can have a look. There's also these labs here, really useful, important, and easy to follow. You can look at one as well. Questions? So I'm not sure about my time now. I have only 4 minutes. Sorry, Bill.
That's all right. We've got a couple of questions. The first one was Data Factory is like SSIS and in the cloud, and Logic Apps is like BizTalk in the cloud. Yep. Okay, that's not really a question, but yes, very similar. Unless you don't know what BizTalk is.
Yes, just one point there. What Data Factory will not do here is in SSIS you can read data from 2 data sources and in memory bring that 2 data sources together, merge those. You cannot do that in Data Factory at all. You have to land those 2 data sources in a database and then do this on your transformation engine.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Next question from Aaron. Can you trigger an ADF v2 pipeline by HTTP call?
Oh, that's a good question. The real answer there, I don't know. I don't think so, because when I looked the last time, it wasn't available. But I forgot to mention something here. You can actually now call Data Factory from a Logic app. It's now, I think has been available for a couple of weeks now. If I go here and type Data Factory, you can have here now, and from that's another way you can use. You can have HTTP requests on your Logic app that will trigger a pipeline. That's my other option I would give there in this scenario.
Yep. Okay. So you can do it that way.
Yes,
and then there was another question about whether this session was recorded. It is being recorded, and it'll be up on the Integration Down Under YouTube channel, and I will also tweet out the location of the recording afterwards.
Cool. Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I posted my question in the organizers window and said, yeah, I was just wondering when V2 goes GA.
Okay, that's a very good question as well. I had someone asking the last week or 2 weeks ago, what is the plan? Is to bring it V1 and V2 together, or just make V2 GA and remove V1? The very straight answer there, I don't know. And I spoke to Microsoft as well, their product team, asking the same question. They couldn't tell me when.
Okay. Okay, any other the tweet will be on the Integration Down Under, or any of the organizers will also retweet that. So, but you can you should be able to go onto YouTube and search for Integration Down Under is one word, and that should bring you up the channel. But you can always hit my Twitter account if you need to. It's BizTalkBill. Any other questions? Okay, thank you everyone, and we will see you again next month. We haven't got the topic for next month yet, but as soon as we do, we will tweet that out. And thank you very much. There's Sergio's Twitter details and everything too, so I'll send him the link as soon as I get that recording done and up on YouTube.
Thanks,
okay,
Bill.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.